So California, as I said, has started to act on air quality because way back in the 1940s, a scientist, a Dutch scientist, started to report the heavy smog in many places, and he directly implicated transportation, number of cars running around for it. But in general, California is one of the least emitting states in the US. And if in fact its economy is so big to be the fifth largest economy as a country, then obviously what California does can have significant impact on global emissions as well. So here is the million tons per capita CO2 emission, in tons. There is Alaska and there are the states. So you can see that some states which typically tend to be red states have very high carbon footprint, and the numbers vary, and California, Oregon, and here few of the northeastern states are way down compared to the other states. Okay, the state has some peculiar rules and regulations. The state has no authority over local land use decisions, so it's the cities and the counties that decide what happens, what gets built where. Obviously this has had some negative social justice issues as well as to where they put the coal burning power plants in the poor neighborhoods, of course, and so on. These decisions are zealously guarded by cities and counties. Shouldn't be jealously. Is it jealously guarded? Okay. As their own prerogative, and determine whether and how far California residents have to drive. So if you're trying to bring about climate mitigation by making access to public transportation easier and so on, and if a county decides that it will let the other counties worry about it and becomes a free rider, which we'll talk about a little bit more, then obviously you have these issues of who will bear the burden and who will suffer for it, and so on, right? So it is this person, Arie Hagen-Smit, I don't know how it's pronounced, from Netherlands, who was a Caltech scientist. This picture is from the 1950s, and you can see here the smog in LA in January of 1948. Okay, this is in 1948, way back when the economy was just beginning to pick up after World War II. US was becoming the world leader in establishing many of the institutions across the world in the post-World War II era. Cold War was beginning to get into gear and so on. And here is an example. Members of Highland Park Optimistic Club in LA are seen here wearing smog gas masks at a banquet in around 1954. Okay, that's pretty serious. Even with COVID, we haven't seen these kind of gas masks come out yet. So obviously they're calling themselves Optimistic Club for a reason. Over time, California took it to its heart in terms of air quality, and from 1975 onwards, efforts have been underway in terms of local state legislations about fuel efficiency and so on, forcing some of the auto producers to battle the state in meeting these standards, and forcing people also, of course, to meet the emission standards. Recent decades, California has tightened its vehicle emission standards. State has experienced a steady decrease in the number of days per year in which the amount of ozone exceeds federal guidelines. So that's good news. Still, you can see there are half a year, more than 180 days where the ozone exceeds federal limits. So California has been setting its own standards for a long time, at least since the 1970s. This is a more recent picture, 1995, smog in downtown LA. So even though this is good news, you can see that even as recently as 1995, there was this huge issue. So California has experienced since the 1940s in combating air pollution, laid the groundwork for climate policy. So it has a history of dealing with air quality problems that allowed it to smoothly transition into reducing other emissions, especially CO2, which doesn't have direct health effects, but it has associated with it activities like industrial activities or transport emissions, which have other pollutants which are bad for health, like particulate matter 2.5 and so on. California also has, I mean, LA especially has this inversion problem, where either you have mountain air coming down and with katabatic compression producing warm air on top of the cool sea breeze that comes in, so you create inversions. Plus, as we said, it's in this sinking Hadley cell high pressure kind of situation, which creates this strong inversion, which makes the emissions to be mixed away, the pollution to be mixed away. So it gets trapped and then persists even during the daytime. So you can see the nice figures here from Paul Duginski of the LA Times. There are what are called Santa Ana winds, which can be really bad for wildfires because they are warm, dry winds coming down from the mountains. Because there is this high pressure with its anticyclonic circulation favoring strong northeast winds over LA, and you have the compression and heating happening. Of course, there is radiative loss that happens on top and so on and so forth, and the cool sea breeze can get under it and create this inversion. Okay. Associated with that, the number of registered vehicles have gone up tremendously, as you can expect. It's a rich state. A lot of people move in for jobs, mostly in the valley area, but even in the south, LA, sports, Hollywood, movie industry, entertainment industry, music industry, and so on and so forth, right? So this is Basin Days exceeding the smog standards, and you can see again from 1976 there is a clear drop. Maximum concentration of ppm, the particulate concentration in parts per million by volume, has also dropped. So these are days exceeding federal ozone standards and maximum 8-hour ozone concentration. As I said, that's good news, but smog continues to be a problem because of inversion and transportation. As we will see, transportation is called a stubborn thing to reduce in terms of its impact on emissions, because lack of public transportation. Even though California is beginning to think of setting up the north-south fast train system and so on, and in the valley area up north there is a train system that seems to be used pretty heavily. There are metro systems in the south, but nonetheless, mostly from the airport people take cabs. So driving is very popular and sometimes necessary in California, which contributes a lot to the emissions, as we will see later on.